Patton read the report twice. Then he placed one finger on a single line and stopped. No one in the room moved. The report said the attack had failed because German resistance was unexpectedly heavy. It said concealed machine guns had cut the road. It said the village had been stronger than anyone believed. And at first glance, every sentence sounded like the kind of language officers used after men had gone forward, and not all of them had come back. But one line bothered Patton. Reconnaissance confirmed the approach. He looked up. Who confirmed it? The room stayed silent. That silence was the first crack in the story. Hours earlier, American soldiers had crossed an open road toward a gray village sitting behind hedges and stone walls. They had been told the approach was clear enough. They had been told the attack had to move on schedule. They had been told the enemy position was uncertain but manageable. Then the hedges opened fire, machine guns from windows, more from the stone walls, rifles from places that had looked empty only seconds before. Lieutenant Peter Collins went down before his platoon reached the first ditch. Men crawled back through mud, dragging whoever still answered when their names were called. Major Charles Whitman called it unexpected resistance. Sergeant Frank Miller called it something else. He had warned them before the first shot. The road was too clean. The village was too quiet. No civilians, no animals, no movement in the windows. It was not proof. But it was enough to send a patrol. And that was why Patton's question mattered. Not because the attack had failed. Attacks failed in war. Patton wanted to know whether men had died crossing ground their officer had never truly checked. And worse, whether that officer had written a report to hide it. Before the first shot was fired, the road looked harmless. That was what made Sergeant Frank Miller distrust it. It ran straight toward the village, a pale strip of mud and broken stone between two winter fields. On the map, it was just an approach route. Cross the road, reach the hedge line, push into the first houses, and break the German screen before it could harden into a defense. Major Charles Whitman liked the simplicity of it. He stood behind a low wall with his binoculars raised, studying the village through the gray afternoon light. The artillery schedule was set. The platoons were in position. Lieutenant Peter Collins had his men ready near the ditch, waiting for the order to move. Everything looked prepared. But Miller had stopped trusting things that looked too prepared. He crouched near the fence line and watched the village without his binoculars. Sometimes glass told a man too much. Sometimes the eye needed to see the whole stillness at once. No civilians moved between the houses. No dog crossed the street. No shutter swung loose in the wind. The windows were dark, but not dead. They had that held-in feeling, as if someone behind them had made the whole village stop breathing. Miller looked at the hedge line again. Too clean. No random fire. No nervous shots. No German movement falling back. No sign of men caught unready. If the enemy was weak, they were being strangely disciplined about it. If they were strong, they were waiting for the Americans to step where the guns had already been aimed. Miller moved toward Whitman. "Sir." Whitman did not lower the binoculars. "What is it, Sergeant?" "That road doesn't feel right." Whitman gave a short breath through his nose. Not quite a laugh, but close enough. "Roads don't feel, Miller." "No, sir. Men hiding behind them do." That made Whitman lower the binoculars. Miller kept his voice even. "No civilian movement, no animals, no loose fire. Hedge lines too quiet. If they had nothing there, we'd see somebody pulling back. If they have something there, they're waiting." Whitman looked back toward the village. "You have proof?" "No, sir." "Then what do you have?" Miller glanced at the road, then at Collins and the men waiting in the ditch. "Enough to send a patrol." The answer displeased Whitman because it was not dramatic enough to dismiss and not solid enough to delay a timetable easily. A patrol would take time. Time would disrupt the attack, and the attack, on paper, was already moving. Whitman folded his map case shut. "We go on schedule." Miller did not argue. He only looked once more at the village. The silence had not changed. That was what frightened him. Major Whitman gave the order 5 minutes later. Not because Miller's warning had been forgotten. because it had been weighed against the schedule and dismissed. That was how the mistake began to dress itself like discipline. The artillery had already fired its preparation. The platoons were already lined along the ditch. The company had been told to move before the Germans could reinforce the village. Higher headquarters expected progress, and Whitman did not want his first message back to be a delay based on a sergeant's feeling about silence. So the attack went forward. Lieutenant Peter Collins rose first, not because he was fearless, but because young officers understood that men watched the first man who moved. He raised one hand, pointed toward the road, and stepped out of the ditch into the open. His platoon followed. For several seconds, nothing happened. That was the cruelest part. The road stayed empty. The village stayed still. Boots struck mud. Equipment shifted. Men breathed hard under their packs and kept their eyes on the hedge line ahead. A few of them may have believed Miller had been wrong. Then the village answered. The first machine gun opened from a window that had looked dead. The second came from the hedge line, lower and flatter, cutting across the road instead of down it. Rifles cracked from behind a stone wall, where no movement had shown a moment earlier. The open ground changed shape instantly. It stopped being an approach. It became a trap. Collins shouted for his men to get down, but the order was swallowed by gunfire. Some crawled toward the ditch they had just left. Others tried to reach a shallow depression near the road. A runner turned back with a message and never made it farther than the fence line before two men pulled him behind cover. Miller did not say, "I told you." Good sergeants do not waste breath on being right while men are still out in the open. He moved along the ditch, pointing men toward cover, dragging one rifleman by the harness, shouting for smoke that arrived too thin and too late. His face carried no surprise. That was what one corporal noticed later. Anger, yes. Fear, yes. But not surprise, because Miller had already seen the village before it fired. The attack stalled before it reached the first houses. By the time Whitman ordered the withdrawal, the company had paid for every yard it had been told was manageable. Collins came back with one sleeve torn and mud across his face, half carried by men too exhausted to speak. Behind them, the village went quiet again. The same silence as before. Only now, everyone understood what it had been hiding. Major Whitman did not write the report like a frightened man. He wrote it like a commander, explaining a difficult field action. That was what made it dangerous. The first paragraph was almost impossible to argue with. Enemy resistance had been heavier than expected. Concealed machine gun positions had disrupted the advance. The village had been defended more strongly than prior estimates suggested. The company had withdrawn to preserve combat strength and prevent further unnecessary loss. Every sentence had weight. Every sentence sounded military. And most of it was true enough to survive a quick reading. German fire had been heavy. The machine guns had been concealed. The village had been stronger than the men crossing the road were told to expect. The attack had failed before the first houses could be reached. But a report does not need to be entirely false to become a lie. Sometimes it only needs one clean sentence placed over a dirty decision. Whitman put that sentence near the middle. Reconnaissance confirmed the approach. It looked harmless there. Just 6 words, tucked between terrain notes and casualty language. A staff officer skimming the report might pass over it without stopping. Confirmed approach meant someone had checked the road. It meant the attack had not gone forward blind. It meant the disaster had been bad luck, enemy skill, and the ordinary cruelty of war. It meant Whitman had done what a commander was supposed to do. But no patrol had crawled close to the hedge line. No sketch had been drawn from forward observation. No sergeant had returned with a report on the windows, walls, road edge, or firing lanes. Nobody had seen the ground before the platoon crossed it. Whitman knew that. He also knew how to avoid saying it. He did not write, "Sergeant Miller recommended a patrol and I declined." He did not write, "Attack time was advanced before reconnaissance could be completed." He did not write, "The approach was assumed clear because delay was considered undesirable." Instead, he used the safer language. Reconnaissance confirmed the approach. By evening, the report had begun moving upward, away from the mud, away from the ditch, away from the men who had crawled back with the truth still shaking in their hands. Paper has a way of becoming cleaner the farther it travels from the field. Mud dries, voices disappear, warnings become absent, and a failed attack becomes a paragraph. But one sentence remained exposed. It claimed someone had seen the road, and sooner or later, Patton would ask who. Major Thomas Greer first noticed the problem in the missing details. The report said reconnaissance had confirmed the approach. But it did not say who had done it. That was strange. In war, names mattered. Patrol leaders had names. Runners had names. Men who crawled forward through mud and glass to study a hedge line had names. If someone had seen the road before the attack, Greer expected to find him somewhere in the paperwork. He found no one. No patrol leader listed. No sketch map attached. No forward observation note. No timestamp showing when the approach had been checked. Only the sentence, "Reconnaissance confirmed the approach." Greer did not accuse Whitman immediately. Good investigators do not begin with anger. They begin by letting the empty spaces speak. He called in Sergeant Frank Miller first. Miller entered with mud still dried on his boots, and the look of a man who had spent the last hours counting faces that should have come back sooner. He stood straight, answered by rank, and did not decorate anything he said. Greer asked whether a patrol had gone forward before the attack. "No, sir." "Did you recommend one?" "Yes, sir." "Why?" Miller looked down for a moment, not out of fear, but because he was seeing the road again. It was too quiet. Greer waited. Miller continued. "No civilians, no animals, no loose German fire. Hedgeline looked held. Windows were dark, but not empty." "Did Major Whitman hear that?" "Yes, sir." "And what did he do?" "We moved on schedule." Greer wrote that down. Then came Lieutenant Peter Collins. Collins's sleeve was torn. One side of his face was bruised. He spoke carefully, as young officers do when they know their words may end another officer's career. He confirmed there had been no patrol report given to him before the advance. No sketch, no named scout. No assurance from a man who had actually crawled up close enough to see the firing lanes. "We were told the approach was manageable," Collins said, "not confirmed." That was the word that mattered. Manageable was judgment. Confirmed was fact. Whitman's report had turned one into the other. Greer checked the radio log next. The attack time had been pushed forward. A scheduled reconnaissance window had narrowed, then vanished beneath the pressure to move. By itself, that might have been bad command. But the report made it worse, because it did not admit the window had vanished. It pretended the ground had been seen. When Greer closed the folder, he understood the shape of the failure. The Germans had not appeared from nowhere. The village had warned them with silence. Miller had warned them with experience. And the report had tried to bury both under 6 clean words. Patton did not receive the report as a battlefield story. He received it as evidence. That was the difference. A battlefield story could be emotional. It could be shaped by fear, smoke, noise, confusion, and the need of every surviving man to believe the disaster had been unavoidable. But evidence had a different weight. Evidence either held together or it did not. Major Greer laid the packet on Patton's desk just before the evening briefing. Attack summary, casualty list, radio log, Sergeant Miller's statement, Lieutenant Collins's testimony, Whitman's original report. Patton read the report first, because that was where the officer had chosen his words most carefully. He moved through the first page without expression. Enemy resistance unexpectedly heavy, concealed machine gun positions, approach disrupted by flanking fire, withdrawal ordered to preserve combat strength. None of that stopped him. War produced ugly reports every day. Then he reached the line Greer had marked. Reconnaissance confirmed the approach. Patton read it once. Then again. His finger stayed on the sentence. Who confirmed it? Greer did not answer immediately. That was enough to make Patton look up. Name. There is no patrol leader listed, sir. Patton's eyes went back to the packet. Sketch? No, sir. Forward observation note? No, sir. Timestamp? None that confirms ground reconnaissance before the attack. The room became very still. Patton turned to the radio log. He did not read it like a clerk. He read it like a man following tire tracks through mud. Attack time advanced. Reconnaissance window shortened. Movement ordered. Contact made. Advance stalled. Casualties reported. The sequence was clear. The ground had not been confirmed. It had been assumed. And Whitman had written the assumption as fact. Patton closed the radio log and picked up Miller's statement. The road was too quiet. No civilians, no animals, no loose enemy fire. Hedge line looked held. That was not proof of a machine gun nest. Patton knew that, but it was enough to send men to look before sending men to die. He placed Miller's statement beside Whitman's report. One came from a sergeant who had seen danger and admitted uncertainty. The other came from a major who had ignored uncertainty and later called it confirmation. Patton leaned back slightly. Now the failed attack had changed shape. It was no longer only about German guns. It was about an officer who wanted the protection of reconnaissance without accepting the delay, risk, or responsibility of actually doing it. Patton tapped the report once. Bring in Whitman. No one asked why. By then, everyone in the room already knew. The question had found the lie. Major Charles Whitman entered the room with his report already memorized. That was the first thing Patton noticed. Whitman did not look like a man searching for what had happened. He looked like a man prepared to defend the version he had written. His face was tired. His uniform still carried the dust of the failed attack, and none of that made him a coward. Patton knew better than to mistake exhaustion for guilt. But guilt often came into a room wearing explanation. Patton let him stand before the table. On it lay the casualty list, the radio log, Miller's statement, Collins's testimony, and the report with one line circled. Reconnaissance confirmed the approach. Patton did not begin with the dead. Not yet. He began with the ground. Did you send men to see that road before the attack? Whitman answered too quickly. Sir, reconnaissance was conducted through available means. Patton stared at him. That was not an answer. It was a sentence built to survive paperwork. Who? Whitman paused. Sir, the situation was developing quickly. The artillery schedule had already begun, and the attack window— Who? Patton asked again. The second time, the word was quieter. Whitman looked at the table. There was no formal patrol leader, sir. Was there an informal one? No, sir. Was there a sketch? No, sir. Was there a man who crawled forward, looked at the hedge line, and came back to say the road was clear? Whitman did not answer. Patton let the silence stand. Then he turned to Sergeant Miller. You warned him? Yes, sir. What did you ask for? A patrol, sir. Why? Miller kept his voice flat. Because nobody saw that road before we crossed it. That sentence took the air out of Whitman's report. Patton looked back at the major. You wrote confirmed. Whitman swallowed. I believe the approach was manageable. Manageable is not confirmed. No one moved. That was the line the entire room understood. A commander could make a judgment under pressure. He could say the ground was uncertain. He could say the attack had to proceed despite risk. But he could not take uncertainty, dress it in the uniform of fact, and send men forward under a word that had not been earned. Whitman tried once more. Sir, the enemy positions were concealed. Patton's face did not change. So was the truth in your report. The room went still. Patton tapped the circled sentence. You did not lose men because the enemy was hidden. You lost them because you called hidden ground confirmed. Whitman had no answer left, and Patton needed none. Patton removed Major Whitman from command before the next attack order was written. Not because the village had held. Villages held every day in war. Roads turned bad. German machine guns appeared, where maps showed nothing. Artillery missed. Smoke drifted the wrong way. Men crossed ground that looked possible in the morning, and impossible by noon. Patton understood failure. He had seen too much war to believe every failed attack meant a failed officer. But Whitman's failure had not ended on the road. It had continued in the report. That was what cost him his command. Patton ordered the casualty list placed beside the original attack summary. The staff saw the two documents together, the names of men who had crossed the road, and the sentence that tried to make their crossing sound properly confirmed. Reconnaissance confirmed the approach. 6 words. Clean words. Words that could protect a commander if no one asked what they meant. But Patton had asked. Who confirmed it? No patrol leader, no sketch, no forward note, no timestamp, no man who had seen the hedge line before the platoon stepped into the open. Only a warning from Sergeant Miller, ignored because it was inconvenient. Only Lieutenant Collins and his men, ordered across ground that had been assumed safe enough. Only a report written after the failure, trying to turn assumption into evidence. Patton did not praise Miller loudly. That would have made the lesson too simple. Miller had not saved the attack. He had not predicted every German gun. He had done something quieter and more important. He had respected uncertainty. Whitman had not. That was the difference. A commander may have to attack through uncertainty. War allows no perfect information, but he must not pretend afterward that uncertainty was confirmation. He must not take the fog of battle, polish it into a clean sentence, and lay it over the names of men who trusted him. Whitman lost his command because Patton knew what false reports did to an army. They did not only hide yesterday's mistake, they built tomorrow's disaster. If one officer could lie about recon and survive it, another would learn to lie about artillery, another about fuel, another about wounded. Soon, headquarters would no longer be reading reports. It would be reading self-defense. And men would keep dying under sentences that sounded professional. So Patton cut it off where he found it. The attack had failed on the road, but Whitman's command ended at the desk. Because Patton could forgive bad ground, bad luck, and stronger enemy fire, he could not forgive a man who sent soldiers into uncertainty, then wrote that someone else had already seen the truth. What would you have done in that room? Accepted the report, or asked who actually saw the ground?